Eckerly, and he just missed the net. O'Reilly with the shot, far down, he scores!
Come from behind for a month, now with the lead, they're getting a little wobbly. Philadelphia, they won't get him! Wow! Edwards pulls up and buries a flag! Richardson tries, out for Bryan. Her three right on the money. Daniels takes his shot for Derby.
What is up, my peeps? Welcome into episode 3 of season 2 of Pitchfork Lunch. Yes, you know it. I'm Michael Carrington at Diablo00 on X, artist formerly known as, yes, you know it, the Twitter. You do know it. See the show live here every day, 12 to 1 as we get rolling. And you can see it on my IG, Michael.Carrington.5 as well. And, of course, Pitchfork Lunchers, you know this. You know this. My YouTube channel. It said, go to YouTube, right? You all know how to get to YouTube, but then you can go to my page, Michael Carrington, but it's at M as in Michael, V as in Victory, C as in Cat 005 at MVC005 on YouTube, and subscribe away, man. Subscribe away because, again, the first season, I've talked about it, the first 2 shows, you missed great sit-down interviews for these first 2 shows, but again, a ton of interviews from around Sun Devil Nation. Obviously, coaches, players, insiders, all that good stuff. Guess what? you can go to subscribe to the YouTube channel and get caught up on it. As again, we kicked off obviously season 2 in great style, absolutely phenomenal. We had Sun Devil Athletic Director Graham Rossini on as the new athletic director. Obviously got hired back at the you could say May, late May. And we got to sit down with him at Big 12 Media Days in Las Vegas for football. It was a great conversation. Again, if you missed it, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go check it out. All the old shows, all the shows are there. So, you can see Graham Rossini yesterday, AJ Cooper, Sun Devil linebackers coach, a group where, and again, we'll hear from Keyshawn Elliott out at practice today. Keyshawn Elliott, linebacker, just stud on the field. And this linebacking group in general, I heard Coach Coop talk about it yesterday. But if you missed that, again, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go check it out as we get season 2 underway. But again, it's at M as in Michael, V as in Victory, C as in Cat 005 at MVC005 on YouTube. And go ahead and subscribe away. Today's show, we're going to keep the interviews rolling. We are going to be joined in just a little bit by Sun Devil cornerbacks coach Bryan Carrington. And man, coach has just done you talk about what he's done on the field. Okay, we can see it. Working with the DBs, working with the corners. But in recruiting, this energetic, awesome young coach has made a name for himself from the time he started in the coaching ranks. So, yeah, Coach Carrington will be joining us. Again, I got to sit down, was able to talk to him. So, yes, absolutely awesome that Coach Carrington was able to sit down with me, talk. But, yes, so he will be jumping in. And, yeah, it is just absolutely awesome, to say the least, because again, this defensive backs group I've talked about it all summer, but have talked about it these first 2 shows. It is yes, we did lose some, and that is quite the bummer. I mentioned it on the actually after a scrimmage, but Mason Williams, fine, just all around great young player, had retired from football. And Coach Dillingham had made the announcement at practice. That's a tough guy to lose in the secondary, because also, and you think like, wow, okay, Mason Williams. And we know from the transfer portal, talked about it back in the spring, how Ed Woods had just entered the transfer portal, and he was again just one of those corners that did everything. The way he played, could cover and even come up and support the run, stop the run. That was a shock to the system. But the guys that came in the transfer portal, and these freshmen, there's guys that have returned as well, guys that came in through the portal, and freshmen. And man, this group is just insanely deep, and you can't. Again, from a defensive back standpoint, I've talked to when you talk to coaches, you always hear the balance on defense. Like, can the defensive line get there and not force the defense to cover so long? Not forcing the cover so long. So that's one of the things where and the defensive backs don't have to cover for a long time. Hence, mistakes can be made, turnovers, all that good stuff, right? Well, talking to Coach Carrington, it is that balance. But if they have to cover longer, this group can. This group, again, you don't want them to have to overstate the obvious, right? Everybody's like, hey, thanks, Captain Obvious. We get that. But yeah, just in talking to Coach Carrington, it's one of those things where it's one of those things where, yes, I mean, you have to work together as a unit, but I mean, whether you have a guy like, the 100-yard landlord, like I said yesterday, Xavier Alford, at safety, as he's known on X, with the 100-yard landlord, Xavier Alford. Then you have, Shamari Simmons, and then Keith Abney out at corner, along with Javen Robinson, who transferred in from Washington State. And then you're looking at it, you're like, man, and then at nickel, you have somebody like a Cole Martin, who obviously transferred from Oregon, but then Rodney Bimmage Jr., the freshman. I mean, this young man, again, the battling the receivers and the depth I talked about in this team, it's, again, I know it's exciting, Homer show or not, but yes, I also can be a realist, kind of. Teaser, Chris Cartman is going to be on Friday. Yes, so he will, as you Pitchfork Lunchers know, he is the publisher of Sun Devil Source for 24/7 Sports. And as you Pitchfork Lunchers know, it's one of those things where he, yes, I can be homerish, but I know not everything's rainbows and unicorns. Yes, this team has work to do. Were they picked to finish last in the Big 12? Yeah. And those of you that watched last season, and I've said this a million times in every sport, I could care less about preseason rankings. I think it's ridiculous. I'm from a TV broadcast standpoint, you're like, oh, you have number 5 taking on number 3, and these version of these teams haven't played a game, but whatever. It is what it is. Don't care about preseason rankings, but yes, they were picked to finish last in the Big 12, and after being 3-9 the last 2 seasons, okay, you got to go out and prove it. But that's fair. It's fair, right? If you're, in Sun Devil Nation, you're annoyed, but that's fair. But we'll talk with Chris on Friday. What is improvement for this team? What can they get to? I mean, with how I'm talking about, again, the defense, again, the depth up front, the D-line, the linebackers, like I said, we're from Keyshawn Elliott. But, man, it is, like I said, whether you want to be cautiously optimistic from that aspect, hope springs eternal. Everybody's excited. Yes, your season isn't, the championship isn't, won after one game, and it's not lost after one game. But starting the season at home, opening up against Wyoming, huge. But you look at, again, like I said, these defensive backs, and a young man transferred from Florida, Kamari Wilson, also back at safety. Coach Ward was talking to him after practice, saying he plays so fast, and not because he's making up for anything. It's just how he plays. And I mean, Kamari Wilson, how he's grown. Like I said, Rodney Bimmage, the freshman. I mean, Keith Abney. You look at him, Javen Robinson, at the other corner. LaTerrence Welch, who transferred from LSU, another corner that is just it does not suck. And then get to a returner in Keontae Bradley, who had grown a lot. I mean, last season playing scout team, but in the spring we saw his growth, and you look at what he can do with his length, and you're like, oh wow, Montana Warren back. I mean, obviously he missed last year because of injury, but just back there, and just, I mean, like I said, it is exciting. But we'll get to that with Coach Carrington, right? So yeah, Sun Devil fans. I mean, again, this Saturday against Wyoming, they will be at Mountain America Stadium at 7:30 p.m. is kickoff. Wear gold, by the way. I went through the whole themes for games, home games, back in the spring. But week 1 is wear gold, as is week 2 for Mississippi State. So 7:30 though, Wyoming, and this Wyoming. I mean, their defensive coordinator took over as head coach. We'll get into more on that on Friday. But their head coach is gone, but their defensive coordinator is taking over. So we'll give you more of a preview of Wyoming on Friday. We'll get to that. But 7:30 p.m. and that is where they are at. Quickly, though, also don't forget tomorrow, today being Wednesday, tomorrow, Thursday, at 7 p.m. at the Sun Devil Soccer and Lacrosse Stadium, the ladies are taking on Grambling State at 7 p.m., everybody. So, yes, you can check that out tomorrow. Again, talk more about that tomorrow. But, yes, Grambling State at 7 p.m., and they are 2-0-2. Sorry, I was like, wait, they're 2-0-2. So yeah, draw with NAU to open up the season. 1-1. Then they beat Wagner 6-0, and then Little Rock, they tied a 0-0 draw here in Tempe last Thursday, and then they hit the road to go to Baton Rouge and take on LSU, and they put up 5 goals in that match, and go in more of the depths of that later, but they won 5-2 there. So, and they have, like I said, Grambling coming up Thursday night. As for women's volleyball on Friday, they are playing in the LUV Invitational, which is in Nashville. So they take on Butler this Friday at 1 p.m., and that's on ESPN Plus, y'all. So you can check it out. Coach Van Neal and the team headed to Nashville. And then on Saturday at 4 p.m., also on ESPN Plus, they're taking on Lipscomb. And then Sunday at 10 a.m. on ESPN Plus, they are taking on Cal Baptist. So those are their first 3 matches. We'll see how the Lady Sun Devils come out, but if it's anything like the maroon and gold scrimmage, absolutely awesome. So that is where we are with that. Let's see. Yeah, and then they'll head to San Diego the next weekend. But let's get through this weekend again, the first one. But yeah, they on Friday take on Butler, like I said, and then Lipscomb, and then Cal Baptist Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All those games on ESPN Plus. But of course, I will get to more of that coming up as well. So it is again exciting times here at in Sun Devil Nation, obviously around the country, college sports programs getting rolling, but we know it just matters here in Sun Devil Nation, right, y'all? Not a homer. You guys know me. Definitely not a homer. So yes, that is again what the sports have coming up. Again, football with taking on Wyoming. So hey, I'm going to step aside real quick, and then we'll take a quick break. But when we get back, you know what time it is. Bryan Carrington, cornerbacks coach for the Sun Devils, kind enough to join us here on Pitchfork Lunch. And again, I'm excited, but from a coaching and a more, I guess you could say, of around it every day, realist, non-homerish thought, I'll let him talk about the secondary as we chop that up. But we'll step aside and have Sun Devil cornerbacks coach Bryan Carrington coming up here on Pitchfork Lunch.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
All right, we are back here on Pitchfork Lunch. Yes, I am Michael Carrington at Diablo00 on X, artist formerly known as the Twitter. You know this. You can follow me there. Comment, hit me up comments during the show, questions, thoughts, anything, any ideas you may think of. Hey, at Diablo00 on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, my IG, Michael.Carrington.5. And yes, y'all, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's at M's and Michael, V's and Victory, C's and Cat 005 at MVC005 on YouTube. And subscribe away because, well, if you're here now, you're going to catch it. But if your friends aren't, and you're a big defensive lover, as I am in football, but again, I love football in general, but I don't know. Either way, we can get into that later. That's not the important part. The important part is we are going to hear from Bryan Carrington now. So sit back, relax. The young man from Houston, Texas, has a lot of experience. Real quick, actually, before we do get started, he was at TCU, but he's also, he's worked at USC, Texas, and Houston. And being a Houston native, played at St. Pius X High School in Houston. A little background there, but yeah, Houston native, phenomenal recruiter. Like I said, TCU, USC, Texas, Houston, and now he's a Sun Devil. So again, I'm excited enough, but we'll get to it right now. So as we sit down with Bryan Carrington. All right, I'm back here on Pitchfork Lunch. Yes, I am Michael Carrington. You know it, at Diablo00 on X, the artist formerly known as the Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Hit me up at Diablo00 because when you do, and you check out the show like you should be doing live every day anyway, we get awesome guests like this. A man who, all I know is if he came into my kitchen and recruited me, it'd be very, very hard to say no to. ASU cornerbacks coach and a phenomenal coach and even a phenomenal recruiter. Because, Coach, first of all, thanks for taking the time. For jumping in. And I think back in the day, I may have been, I think I could have been an invited walk-on because I always loved playing quote unquote, as they say in high school, the garbage time if we were up big. I'm not trying to give you my resume now because I have no more eligibility, Coach, but I may have led our team in interceptions because somebody liked playing a lot of junk minutes and was just, a ball hawk. So I think I could have maybe earned, not that you just would have given, earned a preferred walk-on spot from you. How does that sound?
That sounds pretty good, man. Sounds pretty good, man. Everybody got a dream, right? But I appreciate you having me on the show.
Oh, absolutely. So, let's get to the recruiting part because, the coaching part, obviously I guess that's more, when I talk to a lot of coaches, that's the fun, the excitement, the challenge. You're coaching and you're developing players, but recruiting, quote unquote, we know there's dead periods, but it's a 24/7, almost 365 thing. But from that standpoint, when you first, because your background, obviously, TCU, USC, Texas, obviously in your hometown of Houston, recruiting at Houston. But when you get in it from that angle, do you feel that it almost makes young coaches, more apt to, maybe not young coaches, but just coaches to be better coaches at the college level, just understanding the recruiting and because you're getting to know these players, but also then you're going to have to develop them. So, there's going to be, talk up love. There's going to be tough love, but when you start and you're focused more so on the recruiting side, how do you feel that's helped your career?
I feel like it's helped and shaped, my career and from the recruiting aspect. Obviously, there's nothing more important than recruiting. It's the lifeblood of your program. The quote from Pete Carroll. So you really can't put too many things above recruiting. Obviously, everybody wants to coach and develop, but I'm pretty sure everybody would like to, coach and develop elite kids that have elite redeeming qualities. And then, my background of being at TCU, being at Houston, being at the University of Texas, really gave me an opportunity to, kind of be the front porch of those universities for a time from a recruiting standpoint. And I think, recruiting in the state of Texas is, the most competitive recruiting environment landscape that there is out here. If I just take my time at Texas, for example, within a 5-hour radius of the University of Texas in Austin, you got Texas A&M, you got Houston, you got TCU, you got Texas State, you got, outside of that 5 hours, you got Lubbock, you got Oklahoma, you got Oklahoma State, you got Arkansas, you got, LSU. And then you got the horde of the blue bloods and the schools that have, above average brands that also come in and recruit the state of Texas.
Yeah.
So that's a volatile recruiting landscape and environment. So to get a lot of hours and be a soldier on the ground for those early years of my career, it really shaped me and got me, very competitive, from a recruiting standpoint, to where now on the West Coast, it's not as potent of schools that you run into, from just a geography standpoint. So I'm very, privileged to have had the early years of my career experienced in such a volatile region.
Well, you know what? I was going to go there, but great minds think alike. That's what I was going to say, to kind of continue off that and piggyback off that. And I was going to say, obviously all those schools are there, and just the depth and the talent and the as I call it, because the religion of high school football, which is in Texas. But is it only, and like you said, I mean, the huge national brands, and obviously you were also at USC for a while, but you think of, USC, Notre Dame, even growing up for me, I mean, obviously, I've been a little tough times, but Nebraska. And I mean, I get like Michigan and Ohio State. And, funny thing about Nebraska, quite a few years ago, they were taking on UCLA at UCLA, and the 5 captains they picked from that game was just kind of, I guess, more to, it was good for the guys because they were all from that area of California, from the LA. So, of course, Nebraska sent all their California captains out to, kind of rub it in. You coaches never think of that. But when you compete in Texas like that, and I mean, I get what you just said, because I couldn't even imagine, like you said, I mean, UT comes in and talks to a kid, and then, there's A&M, and then there's Baylor, and then, now look, here comes Houston, and here comes Texas Tech. Like, did you guys almost laugh, even though it may have been blue bloods? And not really laughing at them, but just thinking like, yeah, you have no chance to land this kid. Like, he's not leaving the state of Texas, because we're going to make sure that, like, I know it, like you said, it makes you competitive, and it makes you, this is what our program can do for you. And in this day and age, kids, I don't need, and I've heard you say it before. I've heard Coach Dillingham. It's not the negative recruiting, because everybody used to do it. I'm not talking down to anybody. I mean, I got recruited to a small level. My friends that got recruited on a higher level, you hear things, and it's just kind of funny. But how does that competition and just that, like you said, that hop it, because it's exciting, but I mean, obviously you still can't recruit every single player, but how much more exciting and competitive? And did you guys on the trail kind of, laugh at some other schools coming in from out of state saying like, you have no chance?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of variables involved, I would say, in my time at Houston, you got to
signed Ed Oliver. I mean, he was like what, the first or second 5-star that Houston had signed.
Yeah, he was. So it's like, you got to be mindful of where you prioritize your time, and you got to be aware of who Pac-Man is. In the state of Texas, you got Powers, you got Texas A&M, they're Pac-Man. So it doesn't matter if you offer a kid in 8th grade, 9th grade, when Pac-Man enters the conversation, you're going to get eaten alive. So it's like, you got to prioritize your time wisely to the right kid, every kid's not the same. Some kid, there's no shot he's leaving the state. That's true. But there's other kids that might explore the reality of life outside the state. And so I feel like when you're talking about Texas being a high school, being a religion from a high school standpoint, we just got into the Big 12. So we just kind of grafted into a fraternity that kind of exists within the Big 12 that I've experienced over the years, of a lot of Texas kids that know of each other in high school, played against each other on the high school level, played each other deep in the playoffs on the high school level. Now they're in college. Now they're in Iowa State and at Baylor and at Tech, at Texas Tech and at TCU and now at Houston. So it's going to be a lot of familiarity within the league, which I feel is really prominent of, Texas kids within that league. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, one of my favorite books, I mean, not even just because it was sports, coach, and being obviously a broadcasting major at ASU, but covering sports. Like when I read, I mean, it had been out for quite a while, but it only took me, I'm not even kidding you, coach, less than 2.5 days to finish Friday Night Lights. I couldn't, I mean, and people that see the movie, I mean, I know the TV show is one thing, but people saw the movie, I think Billy Bob Thornton, I mean, they did a great job, but like having friends, like when I was at ASU from Texas that like didn't play football, that are like, Mike, like you don't, like, I know you get it because it's Friday night, you go to the high school game. Like, even if you don't have kids there anymore, people are at the game. Saturday, whoever your college is, if you can go, you go, but you watch it. And then Sunday, back then it was, the Cowboys and Oilers, like it was, and that's it. But reading Friday Night Lights and just like, I mean, even again, I thought the movie, I mean, books are always going to be better, but I thought the movie was solid. But man, to me, I'm like, God, it's like, I get both sides to where kids are like, this is just insane. And they're like, man, some kids are like, maybe it's too much, but man, I just, when I saw you got hired, I'm like, man, I am so jealous I'm not jealous much, coach, but you're back. I'm like, man, just to go in there and recruit. Cause and I want to talk about some of those recruits. I mean, obviously you snagged a few guys from Arizona. I mean, when you were at Texas, I mean, Bijan Robinson and I was always the type covering high school ball or even covering college. Like, I get people say, oh, he comps like this and like that, but Bijan Robinson was the first. And again, it was another Tucson running back. He kind of reminded me of a kid that came along a few years before him. That ended up unfortunately playing for that school down south because he went to CDO, but Kadeem Carey, because Bijan Robinson, from the time this kid was a freshman, every time I saw him run, when he got tackled, coach, he always fell forward. I mean, you saw a lot more film on him. You got to talk to him. I got to see him play a few times and get to talk to him. But when you're recruiting a kid like that, of course, I mean, out of South Point Catholic, out of the Tucson area, but I mean, and I know he was big on UT early. From what he had kind of said and what other people around him said as coaches, but in getting to know a kid like that, when you see a tape like that, and this kid becomes the number one running back, like, and again, like you said, I know your job isn't easy in recruiting, but is it almost kind of like an easy sell? Like, hey, you come to UT, you're going to be featured. Like, this is tradition. And I mean, people walk into that stadium, and I'm lucky enough to have seen 2 games there, coach. So like, you walk in and the atmosphere, it's like, man, how can you say no to this?
Yeah. So it's still a lot of variables involved in that alone. It's like, there's the stigma when I was at Texas of, the state of Texas produced 20 running backs a year that could play at a high level. So it's like a part of that sell is kind of getting over that hump as well, like recruiting out of the state, because a lot of people get caught up in the Texas to Tempe and think that we just want tech players from Texas, or think I just want players from Texas. There's players across this country. And you have to establish a pipeline. You have to view the landscape, and you have to say, you know what, hey, we want to recruit Arizona, but we also want to recruit. We have a national brand. We also want to recruit in hotbed in California. We had a Poly pipeline. We got the Cali Devils. We got the, Texas to Tempe wave going. And when I was at the University of Texas, I mean, you got a national footprint. You can recruit anywhere. So it's like finding a guy that talented is really not about who they're playing against. It's really not about the competition they're playing against, whether good or bad. It's really about what the player looks like in a vacuum. And, you're talking about a kid that averaged like 26 yards a carry, in high school, it was, and at the time, the running back coach, Stan Drayton, who's at Temple, was also fired up about, the kids kids film, and he really wasn't the number one rated running back in the country until signing day. He was already committed. Now rankings change every 5 minutes, every 2 weeks. Back then you could kind of pour concrete on the rankings, because they weren't changing. But now it's just, you got to really trust your evaluation, because oftentimes I don't go on websites and just go down the rankings and start offering kids. I trust my eyes. I trust the evaluation of the coaches around me, and then we'll make those decisions. And it's similar to the NFL draft. Who cares what Mel Kiper says? It doesn't matter where you're on Mel Kiper's board. It matters where you are on the Cowboys board, the Titans board, the Cardinals board.
Yep.
Where are you on their board? So it's reflected in our recruiting process and in other places that I've been.
And I got to ask you this too about Bijan, because it just makes sense. But and I've seen the shirts. I know Jordan's been out at practice with it. He's had it for a while. But the Bijan mustard shirts. Did you help him with that little deal? That's an easy sell.
Yeah, no, that kind of the mustard idea kind of took off. Because I was only with Bijan for 1 year. Right. And I went to USC, and then NIL took off. And him as great of a kid, as marketable as he is, I guess that just kind of. He aligned with the right people, but that was awesome to kind of see those initial NIL deals and seeing him kind of be kind of the face, the poster child of the first wave of true NIL.
Right. Absolutely. It's so simple, but it's just awesome. And like I said, again, being up in Phoenix, and I got to see quite a few of his games, and over the years, getting to talk to him, I'm couldn't be happier for him. I'm because my theory, Coach, here on Pitchfork Lunch, I'm not going to goat you, like I say to all the coaches, but I don't really say too many nice things about that school down south. So since he lived there, as long as he doesn't go there, I'll always root for the kids I cover, just because, it was great getting to cover them, and you see it no matter, like you said, no matter what they do, and I covered JUCOs for years. So if they went that route and, getting to that next level, but yeah, no, it was always awesome. And like I say, I'd love to see him. I always love to see him end up in Tempe, but man, when he was doing that good, and I knew his train was taking him to Texas, and I was like, yeah, he's in pretty good hands. He's gonna do quite well. And everybody that was saying, oh, running backs, like you said, Mel Kiper and all these guys, running backs devalued. It's so funny, Coach, because you're a DB's coach, and I know when you hear when you're recruiting guys, a recruiting coordinator, running backs devalued. But it's funny when there's a really good one. I think of obviously him. I think of in recent history, somebody like Saquon Barkley. Even as Zeke Elliott when he came out, there's a really good one. It's funny, they go high, but people are like, oh, you can get another running back, but yeah, you should get these if you can. That whole thing, like you said about the boards, that's a show for another time. It drives me crazy too, Coach, because I'm like, and I always hear Coach say yeah, obviously you have to have the talent, and you guys are looking at tape, and we work with, and I always had coaches saying it wasn't just for players that may have not been as athletically gifted, but you can't coach the heart. If somebody's working hard, I used to hear coaches say, I'll take 40 guys that might not be the best, but have the heart, that are going to do everything that you can coach up, because you have the heart, you're going to work that much more extra because you have to. And coaches can coach out. It's yeah, you might not always win with that, but you can't you measure somebody's heart. And obviously, you tell somebody they can't do something long enough, and they're going to be like, well, okay, we'll see what I can do, right? And to that, Coach, I want to talk about obviously Jake Smith. He was the 2019 Gatorade Player of the Year here in Arizona. You're reunited with him back here now, but you got him to go to Texas. And his road has been tough, and I've talked about it on the show. The medical thing at USC, and they were saying, and then he does get cleared, and then they won't approve the waiver last year, which again, a kid like that, him a lot better than most, but a kid like that doesn't need so much more extra motivation. But last year gave that to him. What's it just been like working with Jake, seeing his, even though he is on the offensive side of the ball, trying to pick on your corners and safeties, Coach? But what's it been like just working with Jake, getting to know Jake, see his kind of tough road, but just to see where he's at now?
Yeah, this is my third university where Jake has been on the roster. Just so excited for Jake, especially at this time with us, being almost 1 week away from playing our first game. A guy like that can finally see light at the end of the tunnel. It's been a mental battle. I would definitely say that he's in a great mind state now, you know, and, you know, that's a lot to deal with. You know, him and Xavier Alford kind of shared similar experience, Texas to USC, from USC to Phoenix, and now they can see light at the end of the tunnel. You know, and I would attest that everybody on this team thinks the world of Jake Smith and thinks the world of Xavier Alford. But, you know, I remember, you know, back then coming out to Scottsdale after Jake Smith, after Bijan, after, you know, Keely Robinson, Keely Ringo. I don't feel like we would have signed Bijan if it wasn't for Jake Smith. You know, that's what I talked about earlier, establishing a pipeline. You get one kid from the region, you're able to kind of market that kid, and you're able to go back into that region with validity, you know, and testimony and stuff like that. So, you know, Jake is an exceptional football player. Super excited about, you know, how the offense and how Coach Arroyo and Coach Dillingham can use Jake. You know, he's an explosive playmaker. You know,
yeah, Jake, and I've talked to both, you know, Jake and Xavier about that. Like, they just, you know, they were workout buddies, you know, and they took, and not that other players didn't, but their job on the scout teams last year, like not really getting to run your stuff. But man, I mean, I remember being at practice, seeing Jake push and seeing Xavier saying, "You're not going to make this catch easy." Like, and he said, Jake said to me, going through that with him, he goes, "Not that I wanted him to go through, because I wanted him to get cleared. Obviously, you're rooting, you know, for your teammate, for your brother." He goes, "But yeah, we'd work out together, you know, doing everything." He goes, and it was just that much more mutual respect, and both of our loves of the game. He goes, "We already had it." He goes, "But when you're just watching your teammates," and Jake said, "It's like, you know, it's obvious." He goes, "It might not be physically as bad as an injury, but mentally it's worse than an injury, because we can help our team, and now we just have to sit there and watch." But I do want to get to the team, because I mean, Coach, again, thank you so much. You're awesome, and like I tell Coach Ward, and I've told you a few times, I'm one of the few that knows the defensive side of the ball still exists, and if it's a 17-10 game, or a 21-17 game, or even a 17-13 game, God forbid I say that to anybody. It's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times. Like, it still can be a great game. I still love defense, Coach. So, but the guys you mentioned Xavier. I mean, Keith Abney, another kid from Texas, a true sophomore out at corner. I know, you know, Javen Robinson. I mean, in this day and age of the transfer portal, he transfers from Washington State, has some familiarity with Coach Ward, fitting into your defense. But Terrence Welch coming in, Rodney Bimmage. And then to have a guy like Montana Warren, who, man, I mean, Coach, you know, I mean, I know you know, but for the viewers out there, and I said it was unfortunate when he got banged up. I mean, this is a kid as a freshman in Camp T was like, okay, they're my teammates. I love them. I respect them. I'm going to hit them hard as a freshman. And he came back off his injury, and Coach, man, he still looks like he's crushing it as a true sophomore. I've talked about the depth. I know you know it, but this defensive backs room, and like you said, competition. Coach Dillingham came out and says, like, having 22 starters on defense. This secondary, and I know I had asked you up at camp, is it almost kind of like a baseball coach, like, that can't get sleep putting in a lineup card, because it's like you really have, and again, they have to prove it on the field. They develop that chemistry, but you kind of have no wrong answer. I'm not trying to get Sun Devil fans too overexcited, but with your guys' coaching, what Coach Ward's done, obviously the defense, what you've done, their experience, their communication. Oh, and I forgot to mention Shamari. See, I mean, I'm this far in, and I forgot. I'm sorry. Shamari, I'm sorry. Warrior, like coaches said last year. But, I mean, I know it's exciting. I mean, I'm excited. You're excited. But, man, how tough is it? Because, yeah, of course they all want to be starters. And, yeah, they're going to get their time. But, Coach, man, I love your job, but I do not admire that part of it.
Nah, but that's, you know, it gives us good problems to have. You know, our job is to coach and develop, you know, each and every player that's on our roster. But it's also our job to stock the pond, you know. And when we got here, you know, that's been the goal. We have to add kids to the top of our roster, regardless of position, create competition, create uncomfortability, see who rises to the top. You know, we don't want to be in a position where we don't have depth, and then we're forced to, you know, play, you know, the guys that we have. We want to create competition. We want to be great teachers, great coaches, great developers of not just the starters, but the guys behind the starters, the freshmen. We have some really intriguing young players that are going to be, you know, to have the potential to be multi-year starters who may not see the field this year, you know. So it's like they have to stay the course, you know. But, you know, we've been creating a lot of competition, you know, by design. You know, our job is to, you know, we owe Arizona State the best. You know, they deserve for us to go out here and really bring in high caliber student athletes.
And, you know, I mean, Coach talked about activating the Valley. I get you here on these last two because you brought up a good point. I mean, a guy like Cole Martin, who was obviously revered from his, you know, freshman year of high school on, you know, goes up to Oregon, but comes back home and, again, uber talented. And I've heard, you know, Coach Dillingham say, and even Coach Ward say, it's the coaching he wants. Like, he knows he came in, you know, for a reason. And Coach Ward was saying, you know, people are going after, if you look at a true nickel, he goes to pull him out of high school. He's like, people are going after like 5 to 7 guys that can truly be a nickel. But what is Cole Martin meant? Because like you said, competition, but he wants, I mean, I've seen him since the spring, obviously talking to you after a play, or he'll go over and talk to Coach Ward, or talking to, you know, somebody like, you know, Keith or Xavier. But what's Cole Martin been like in the locker room and on the field for you?
He seems like a guy that he's a guy that loves football, you know, infectious personality, you know, contagious energy. He's a guy that, you know, not only wants to play, you know, from the defensive standpoint, he wants to affect the game from a special team standpoint, wants to return kicks, wants to return punts. You know, this is a local kid, you know, and this is an example for a lot of local kids, you know, in the greater Phoenix area to stay home. Stay home. You build an unbelievable brand for yourself to be a polarizing high school athlete and have all these offers around the country. Why start over from scratch? Why not come to college with name recognition out the gates? You know, a lot of kids, you know, are coming here out of state for the opportunity. You know, these hometown kids have the opportunity to come in and have some name recognition out the gates and kind of have that inside track, you know, to build a name, to build a reputation for yourself at home. Because today I tell people, this is your home, and, you know, 85% or really 90% of all these universities aren't in heavy metropolitan areas. So the day you graduate is the day you pack it up and go home. You know, this is a place that a lot of kids, you know, can create lifelong connections that they want to continue to maintain, you know, for the long haul.
Absolutely. And lastly, you mentioned the young guys, and I know, you know, he was here for the spring. He said he, you know, talked to his parents, and I said, like, I get both sides in this day and age. It's huge if you can get in and start, you know, understanding the defensive playbook or offensive playbook. Part of me is torn. It's like, man, you've done the work, you know, enjoy high school. You're still going to work. You're still going to train. But Chris Johnson came here in the spring, and like you said, it's a young guy, uber talented. Obviously, you plucked him out of Texas as well. But, man, like, and I asked Hines Ward this, like, you know, when the light goes on for a player, like, I know it's rewarding as a coach when you see it. And, you know, even for the spring, I'm sure Chris had a little bit of deer in headlights. Like, you see these guys and you're like, okay, I know what I need to do, but damn, like, whoa. But how do you feel that Chris has grown? Because, again, to the non-coach, to the eye that's out there, I mean, it's looking like he's grown. He's making that play. It seems like the light is definitely coming on for him. But like you said, it's a deep room. But what's it just been like working with Chris and just seeing him grow from the spring until, you know, this part of fall camp?
Yeah, this is a kid with a lot of upside. I know this kid is 17 years old. You know, so to be in here in January and go through a rigorous, you know, spring ball with a lot of terminology, learn the defense and catch up to the speed of the game. You know, he's been developing, and he had a really strong fall camp. You know, from a statistics standpoint, he had the best completion percentage when targeted, given, you know, the opportunities that he had out there. He was successful. At the end of the day, we can teach, we can coach, we can help players, but at the end of the day, it's about the productivity on the field. You know, so this entire fall camp, we've been tracking every metric we can. Targets, you know, targets won, targets lost, PBUs, penalties, interceptions. What's your quarterback rating when targeted in team 7-on-7 and tempo periods? You know, so we get all these metrics, you know, that kind of paint a picture on who these players are. So obviously we create opinions and evaluations of where our guys are to assess where they are and where they need to develop. But to have that and combine the statistics, it paints a really good picture as far as, you know, what guys need to work on and where guys are and what their potential contribution can be to our team this year. I always usher, you know, at the end of practice, at the end of a scrimmage, at the end of a game, what does the film say about you? So Chris Johnson is a kid that has a lot of upside. He's growing into his body. He's only 17 years old. He's 187 pounds. He's gonna grow and blossom into an unbelievable frame and a football player for us.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know, like obviously with COVID and guys, given an extra year, a year doesn't count. Some guys are in their 6th year of college, and with injuries. But yeah, when you bring it back to that and say, yeah, he's 17, obviously he knows he's playing college. He's here to play college football, but at 17, like, yeah, it is mind blowing. But Coach, man, thank you so much, obviously, for jumping on Pitchfork Lunch here. So a Houston native, and it was St. Pius X High School, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, I do my homework. I know there's a few guys, and if I recall, they named Gary Kubiak was also an alum. They named the field after him, right? Or they donated your honor? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. See, look at that. Yeah, Houston produces a lot. Texas, obviously. Texas to Tempe. Mr. Fight also makes sure I always know that. He sends me messages. I'm sure that surprises you, but we'll get messages on Twitter. I love it, about Tempe Texans and everything. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm like you said, I'm all for it. Nothing but the best for ASU. You mix kids from the Valley, Texas, Louisiana, from back east. It doesn't matter. They can come here.
They're going to love it. Just get off the plane. Just come check us out.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, hey, thanks so much again for jumping on. I greatly appreciate you becoming part of the Pitchfork Lunch family, because like I said, it was the love child for a while. I figure everybody else talks about their teams. I'm starting a homer show about all ASU sports, and it's worked out quite well. So we'll see you out on the field, Coach. And I know, charging towards Wyoming, man. Good luck, Coach.
All right. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. We will have more Pitchfork Lunch coming up after this. All right, back here on Pitchfork Lunch, little side change. Anyway, yeah, Coach Bryan Carrington, awesome, man. Thanks. It's just so awesome when Coach come on. You could tell a little too geeked out, but me, not him, obviously, but nonetheless, awesome having him on. And just, listen, we're saying about recruiting. You think about that. Yes, being in Texas and recruiting. I think recruiting at Texas, recruiting at USC. Like he says, blue bloods. You come in and to a living room, and it's, or, out to a high school, or, into a living room, either one, say what you will. But with that, obviously, tradition and like cachet behind you, like it is a difference. And yeah, in this day and age of, social media, like you said, kids compete. They might not be on the same team, but, being in Texas, or they compete against each other, know each other. Oh, maybe they'll, team up and end up somewhere together in college. And, like I said, in Texas, obviously a huge hotbed. And again, Coach Carrington's done just an amazing job. And like I said, I mean, college coaching, you look at it, I mean, you're prepping. Here we are Wednesday, getting ready for the home opener. And, Wyoming going to be here, season opener, home opener in Tempe. So it's the development and game planning, but then it's like, you look at that obviously of, recruiting and, obviously the class of 25, you're feeling now who you might have, some stronger commitments from, stuff like that. But then it's like, you're looking at the 26 class, and I mean, Coach Dillingham talked about that. It's all over the summer when, they have their camp. It's like, if you're not, already looking at the 26 class, it was a while back, like it's that thing. And, then you see, even the class of 27, like I mean, again, it leads you to, yes, needing to focus, but it is constant. And yes, the vacation, the dead periods, quote unquote, their vacation period is well earned. And from that standpoint, like I said, Coach Carrington, I mean, what they've done in Texas, I mean, what he did when he was there, but what they've done in Texas, we see it on the field. And it is just, again, absolutely awesome. And look, now, I mean, and then, yes, with the coaching and, Dyron Reynolds, a new defensive line coach, like the staff you assemble and what Coach Dillingham has assembled. And it is, you need to get it done, X's and O's adjusting on the field, but out on the recruiting trail, like that is the huge part. Heard Coach Cooper talk about it yesterday about, getting to go to, Hawaii and that kind of pipeline with, Coach Iguano and, and you have a Texas, pipeline and, obviously California, and getting alum involved and, having somebody like a DJ Foster involved. So, yeah, absolutely awesome. Again, Coach Carrington, forks up to you. Thank you so much for taking time doing that with me. And next time I promise I won't, get too crazy excited. So, but I mean, why shouldn't I be, right? But yeah, and and speaking of defense, I told you guys also, we're going to hear from Keyshawn Elliott before we get out of here. A few minutes over, but we are going to hear from linebacker Keyshawn Elliott, who will be wearing the green dot, as we've talked about, and we've seen it mad published and from Big 12 Media Days, the not even just the tablets on the sidelines now, but not even the tablets on the sidelines, but the communication into the helmet. And Keyshawn Elliott will have the green dot, and he will be so, he was talking about that after practice today and getting ready, but just like the kind of leader he is. I mean, you heard Coach Cooper talk about it yesterday, being the first one literally in, and he talks about how early he gets up and stuff like that. So, I mean, and just what this defense can do. So, yeah, let's hear from Sun Devil linebacker Keyshawn Elliott. This is just today, right after practice.
And your linebacker group, and obviously your whole experience of waking up early and your routine of getting up and starting your day quickly. How does that kind of fit for you in terms of your mindset and your mental being able to do that every day and kind of lead others by example?
I think it's part of the process. I set a standard for myself. I'm going to hold it against me. If I'm going to wake up at 4:15, then I'm waking up at 4:15 every day. It's not just going to be once out of the week. So really that's a standard. Being a leader in the leadership council, I also got to hold a standard for other people as well. So being a good leader, by example, is something that I hold against myself.
What's your mindset, or what do you like tell yourself whenever you get those days you're like, man, I don't want to get up at 4:15, or I'm just want to get another couple hours of sleep?
I like to think about what other people are doing. You know, everybody in the country is doing this. You know, they're out here in the mornings practicing, even if they don't want to. So what can I do to, one up them?
How'd you enjoy being able to practice full outside today? Obviously, the clouds made it a little bit cooler for you guys.
Yeah, it was great. I don't know what it is. It was like 85. It feels like 80. But, it's been I don't even know if we've been outside all day once besides that night practice. But it's been good, Feel Mother Nature, have a good practice outside.
Do you think the energy levels in terms of the stamina and the fitness of the team has been much better in the latter parts of camp? What you've noticed in terms of like the intensity of thermal practice?
Yeah, definitely. I think Coach Joe and Coach Dunham did a great job of conditioning us throughout fall camp, and what we did throughout the season to make sure that our stamina levels are great. We're able to withstand the heat, a full game, whatever it's 80 to 60 plays, whatever it is.
And then the way that from obviously the start of fall camp till now getting ready for week one, Coach Dillingham, obviously Coach Cooper, Coach Ward talked about the depth up front, but just being in that linebacker position, what have you seen from the growth just from your group, but from the defensive line as well?
Yeah, up front, like you said, depth. The depth is great, especially up front. They're banging every play. So, you constantly have guys that are rolling in and out. It's great for them, hold on to those double teams for us linebackers so we can get through guys, make plays. But, linebacker room, it's been nothing but full of depth and competition. We're, having so many guys that can play, back and forth. The competition in fall camp, just only makes us better. We can rely on each other. That room's been one of the closest groups that I've been a part of as a linebacker. So, whoever's out there, we're always supporting each other.
And Coach Coop, I talked to him, I asked him about that, saying obviously guys returning, but new guys coming in, but he kind of got you guys uncomfortable right away, getting comfortable to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But just within that group, and yeah, you want to be on the field, but I'm almost kind of related to running back. Do you feel that like less is more, that you might not be on the field as much, but you guys might be just as explosive with the depth that you've added?
Yeah, definitely. I'll take it back to last year. So last year I played 940 snaps. And I'd say those last 20 snaps of the game, I'm feeling not good. So imagine if I had 20 snaps taken off me with a room full of depth. How much better could I have been, consistently through a game, So that's kind of how we all look at it. We know we're going to be a heavy room, deep room. That's going to be a lot of rotation, but that's only for the better, making sure that we're 100% each and every time that we're out there.
And the communication, because you're going to have that in your helmet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously I know it takes a second to get used to, but how have you feel that, hearing Coach Ward in your ear, how has that worked for you?
I think it's been great, in terms of communication. It's allowed us to do a lot more defensively, within checks and whatever it is, be able to relate to an offense more, less reaction, more pre-snap, alerts and all that kind of stuff. But, transitioning to it was a little different. I think first day is, my head was all over I got to tell the defense what to do and do my job. Like, come on now. But, I caught on and, I enjoy it. I like it in my helmet.
So being that quarterback of the defense, what is it like just, trying to get, kind of juggle those two things all within a, span of just a few seconds?
Like I said, the first day was a mess in my head, mentally, but, I got used to it, used to talking while also thinking, what am I doing? But also telling other people what they're doing. But like I said, I enjoy it. I like telling people what to do. I like giving out alerts, making sure that we're all on the same page.
Just a few days away from running out that to the tunnel, what are the emotions and kind of, just knowing that just a couple days away from your Sun Devil debut?
Yeah, it came fast, but I'm ready to go. I know the team's ready to go. It feels like forever, though. I think I played in December, but it feels a couple years. But I'm so excited. It's crazy to think it's only 3 days away.
How good is it going to feel to just hit somebody that's not a teammate?
Oh man, I can't even tell you. I'm excited.
So where have you seen kind of the biggest strides in this defense collectively? Bryan Ward talked about how these guys are kind of understanding more of the why as camp goes on. Where have you seen kind of the growth from spring to where this defense is right now?
I think one of the biggest things that why we're having success and why we had a good camp defensively is because we had a lot of guys here that were in spring ball. They were able to adapt to the defense in those spring installs, which really made the transition spring to fall pretty easy. We didn't have to spend long hours in installs. We could rather go out there and play it now. So I think that's the leadership that we have on defense is good as well.
What does it mean to you to be voted by your peers to have some leadership?
That was big for me. I tell people all the time I take more pride in my leadership roles than what I'm doing out on the field. So, I was excited, and I know that guys, having them, knowing that they're supporting me, they trust me, the coaches trust me, is a good feeling as well.
The competition on obviously on defense, but just even from a secondary standpoint, obviously, like you said, you're doing your job calm, but we've just kind of seen some things from the secondary where you just go over and you're like, wow.
Yeah, I love to watch film and love to see guys competing. But like you said, it's competition every day. It's almost like every play is an interview. You're always getting evaluated. What can you do to make yourself better? What can you do to, raise your resume?
Keyshawn, you touched on it earlier, but wearing the green dot, how has that gone? How are you anticipating it going with the season starting?
It's good. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different, but, come game time, but the coaches have done a good job, putting us in game type scenarios. So, we're able to adapt to it before we're put out there on Wyoming. But I like it. I think it's, I don't want to say what I want to say, but it's good. I like it.
You did say you like telling other people what to do, right?
Yeah, make sure that we're all on the same page. Let's put it that way.
How different is it from last year?
In terms of communication, it's a little different. I think it's more of it allows me to talk more. It forces me to talk more. Like you said, it's like a quarterback. So really, I'm playing quarterback on the defense. So.
What's your sense about this team's ability to stop the run? Brown said confident. Bryan seems confident.
I think we have the guys to stop the run. Stop the run, it takes a lot, but it's ultimately mindset and what you can do up front. The D-line group and the linebackers fit in the right gaps. Being disciplined, but I believe that in everything that we can stop the run. So.
Is that a priority against Wyoming? Because I know they brought in a new coordinator who's probably going to spread the field more passing wise.
Yeah. I think number one is beat Wyoming. That's our number one priority.
So when you look at the Cowboys and what they like to do offensively, as Tim mentioned, a new offensive coordinator there, what are some things that jump out in terms of what they like to do?
I think they'll be good. You play in a Mountain West school, they're always good. Even if we're a Power 4 school, it's I played for a G5 school and we beat a Power 5 school last year. So I know they're going to have the mindset, the will to come beat us, but what can we do to not allow that to happen?
Thanks, John.
And there he is. And you heard it. I mean, like I said, the green dot, like I said, it takes a minute to get used to, but, likes telling people what to do on the field, obviously, and getting in line, getting everybody set. So, like I said, this linebacker core, I mean, Keyshawn Elliott and Coach Cooper talked about it yesterday, but you have a guy like Jordan Crook, who, transferred in, and then also Cyrus Fiasau, who transferred in. Then you got Caleb McCullough back from last year, Tate Romney back from last year, and Coach mentioning how Kavion Thunderbirds has been maybe the most improved and just grown from that. And you got a freshman in Martell Hughes, like it's just Tate Romney as well. Like it's a group, that has something to prove. As a question coming in, but I just think through fall camp, along with maybe the defensive line, the depth there, and then go into the secondary like I talked about. The question was there, and maybe some questions. Fair enough at corner coming in, but man, with Keyshawn Elliott, leading the way, these linebackers, and Coach Cooper talked about it yesterday. Kind of taking that realm as like. Coach Carrington, mentioned today, just the competition, but like the depth, what these guys can do, and man, just chomping at the bit to get on the field. So, but yeah, very excited for Keyshawn Elliott's linebacker core, and hey, we'll see what happens. Predictions when Chris comes on Friday, and yes, a lot of the Homer show that I am, he embraces that, but he'll poke at it, but we'll see. We'll give I'll give season predictions, have him shoot down why I'm crazy, why I'm not, and or why I'm maybe too much of a homer. So, but don't forget tomorrow, obviously tomorrow coming first, Thursday, women's soccer tomorrow night. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Obviously volleyball getting started this weekend as well. They hit the road there in Nashville. So yes, very, very, very exciting times here in Sun Devil Nation. But hey, that's going to do it for today, man. Pitchfork Lunchers, so stoked you were able to jump in and check it out. Hopefully you saw Coach Carrington, but if not, that's okay. at Diablo00 on X, artist formerly known as Twitter. See show live here every Monday through Friday, 12 to 1. My IG, Michael.Carrington.5. And yes, Pitchfork Lunchers. Again, if you're here and you missed the interview, you jumped in late, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, then go to my channel. It's M as in Michael, V as in Victory, C as in Cat 005 at MVC005 on YouTube. And subscribe. Because again, you can catch up on all the interviews. Again, Graham Rossini, the new athletic director, kicked off the first show with him. AJ Cooper yesterday, Bryan Carrington today. Again, it just keeps building from here, just like it did last season, my friends. So that being said, you guys have a great rest of your week. This is my mama. All you Pitchfork Lunchers, I did it last year. Mike, what day is it? Hump day. Yeah, woo. She still does that till this day. Very excited. Yes, my name's in the commercial, but she still enjoys that. So nonetheless, have a great rest of your Wednesday. I will see you tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel. And yes, you guys know this. It's a Sun Devil State. But as always, forks up.
I went to Arizona State. Right. I'm a Sun Devil, man.
The 27-yard line. That's a great call. Blaine Baker, Plummer will put it up, throws over the middle. Touchdown. Quick flag.
That's a way. Trying to center off with Eckerly, and he just missed the net. O'Reilly with the shot. Far down, he scored.
From behind for a month. Now with the lead, they're getting a little wobbly. Philadelphia, they won't get him. Wow. Edwards pulls up and buries a flag. Bryan. Her three right on the money. Daniels takes his shot for